Okay, I am showing you guys your materials for your glazing demo today. This is the mug that I'm actually going to be glazing for you guys. And with this mug, I had it on a shelf, I made it a while ago, and it's actually accumulated some dust inside. So my first step would be to actually take this mug over to the sink and wash it out with soap and water, okay? After I'm done with that, I'm gonna take a look at my actual glazing materials. So over underneath the sinks, there are signs that say glaze mixing bowls, there are whisks, and there are spatulas that you guys will need, okay? I also have these really thick brushes that are best used for glazing. They are called hake brushes, okay? There are a bunch of them over on the top shelf for you guys. You guys also have glazing brushes in your supply pack. However, they are a much finer tip for you guys, and it takes a lot longer to glaze your piece, okay? So these are definitely a good starting point. When you guys are working with the glaze, there are small containers over on the side, and there are big containers. Now, these two are actually the same glaze. If you can't find, or if one is empty of a small container, feel free to look for a big container. However, there aren't big containers for every small container, okay? And if we're missing something, then we just have to put it in another order, okay? This one is almost empty, so I would use the big container today until this one is filled up. So your starting point, especially if you're using a big container, if you're using a little container and you need to use it, you can actually just, if it's broken up or it's hardened, you can actually just put some hot water in here and use one of the spoons and stir it up really well, okay? You want the consistency to be about melted ice cream, okay? So that when you actually put your layers on, you want 2 to 3 coats. 3 is a safe bet. 2 sometimes doesn't fully coat your piece, okay? So you can actually do that in the container and put your brush in the container for the smaller containers. But remember, you only use one color at a time, so that you don't mix colors and mix glazes with the brushes, okay? When you're using the big containers, what you can actually do, this is kind of a big bowl, I have smaller bowls as well, but I can actually pour out the glaze in here, and I can use a whisk. If it's really thick, again, I can add hot water and I can whisk it really quick to make it thinner. Once you want to get it back into the container, and that's just to mix the glaze, not even to use it. Once you want to get it back in the container, we have these funnels under the sink as well. Put it right in the glaze container, and then you can actually take that glaze. We have spatulas over on the shelf because you don't want to waste any glaze. It's extremely expensive, and you can actually use a spatula to clean the bowl to get all of the glaze back into the container, okay? So that's just to mix the glaze if it's not the right consistency, which most of the time coming out of the bottle, it's not, okay? Now, after you are done and your glaze is ready to go, you'll actually take your piece. You want to glaze the inside first, okay? Just in case you're putting any detail on the outside, you're actually going to pour glaze on the inside, especially for something bigger, like if you're doing your coil vessel, okay? So you would actually take your glaze and you would pour it on the inside. I'm not going to do it on this one because I haven't washed it yet, but you would pour it on the inside, and you would just turn it around so the glaze actually coats the entire inside of the piece, okay? You can even take one of the hake brushes too and move that glaze around to make sure everything is evenly coated on the inside. Then you can actually pour it out into your bowl. I'm gonna get that dust out. Pour it out into your bowl, and you can also either take the glaze from the bowl with a hake brush and put it around, or you can take the container and you can actually pour it around the outside, okay? Once you get your actual glaze into the bowl, it's a lot easier to get an even coat so you're not missing anything, okay? After you do your first coat, feel free to do a second coat once it completely dries. When your glaze actually goes on the piece, it will look wet, and after a couple minutes, since our bisqueware is really porous, it'll start to look sort of chalky, okay? And that means that your glaze is drying. You want to make sure you wait until it's completely dry to put another coat on. And then if you want to go over and do details with your smaller brushes and a different color, feel free to do so. You just have to make sure you wait until it's completely dry. When you are done glazing your piece, make sure if you got any on the bottom, take a sponge and wipe it off so that when we put it on the kiln shelves for firing, remember glaze is glass. Once it's fired, it actually becomes glass. If you have it on the bottom of your piece and it touches the shelves, it will actually fuse to the shelves. and you have to take a chisel and a hammer, and most likely you have to break your piece to get it off the shelf, and you break the shelf, okay? Once you're done glazing your piece, once again, you'll take your bowl, you'll take your spatula, you'll clean all of the glaze out, use your funnel and put it back into the container, okay? Wash this out with a sponge and hot water over the sink. Wash everything off, including your hockey brushes. And I would even suggest washing the hockey brushes or whatever glazing brush you're gonna use, the spatula and the bowl, before you glaze, just in case the student before you didn't wash it well enough. Just because, and you can see it on the slideshow, if you mix two glazes or they left a little bit of a different color, like I'm glazing with Arctic blue, and somebody left a little bit of red in this bowl, a lot of times it doesn't look like red, it just looks like white powder, but it will explode in the kiln and it could really ruin your design, okay? So our spatulas are over on the tool shelf. These are just some more sizes, depending on how big your piece is actually for glazing. And then these go back under the sink when you are done and you are ready to glaze your piece.